I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Lisa for about 5 years. We had a pretty standard life, good jobs, a nice house, a dog that I loved more than anything. Honestly, I thought everything was fine, maybe even perfect. Or at least I wanted to believe it was. I'd catch her looking at her phone a bit too much, and she'd get defensive when I asked what she was doing. She'd say she was just talking to her sister or scrolling through social media, but I always had this nagging feeling that something was off. She was bitchy sometimes, snapping at me over small things, and never really wanting to have deep conversations anymore. I chalked it up to stress, work, whatever. Then, about 2 weeks ago, I started noticing she was acting weird when she was on her business trips. They were supposed to be full of meetings and client dinners, but I'd catch her in little lies about where she was or who she was with. She'd tell me she was working late or with her team, but I'd see her texting late at night, hiding her phone or changing her stories. It was subtle but enough to make me uneasy. I'd even found small things like a hotel key in her purse after she returned from one of her trips. I didn't think much of it at first, just a mistake or a joke, but the more I looked, the more suspicious I got. Then came the night I found her phone open on the table with a message from someone named Tom that said, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Love you." That's when I knew something was definitely wrong. She always swore she was faithful, that I was all she wanted, but her actions told a different story. Still, I hesitated to confront her outright. I wanted to catch her in the act if I could, but I also didn't want to ruin everything without proof. So I started digging a little deeper, paying attention to her schedule, her luggage, her phone. I kept quiet for days, pretending everything was normal, all while my stomach was twisting in knots. I saw her get more brazen, more dismissive of me. She'd come home late, smelling like perfume I didn't recognize, and brush it off like I was paranoid. She'd say I was overthinking, that her business trips were just that, business, but I wasn't stupid. I knew she was lying, and I knew she was cheating. Then last Friday I came home early from work and I decided to check her purse. I figured if she was hiding something, maybe I'd find a clue. Honestly, I didn't expect to find what I did. There inside her purse was that hotel room key again, this time right on top. I also found a small, crumpled piece of paper with a message. "Can't wait for tonight, love you." My stomach sank. I held her key in my hand like it was a bomb about to go off. I knew I should confront her immediately, but I was so stunned, I just stood there, staring at it. It felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet. How could she lie to my face for so long? How could she cheat on me with her best friend's husband, no less? I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. I kept the key and the note hidden in my pocket until she came home. That night, when she walked in, I looked at her differently, like I was seeing her for the first time. I wasn't angry yet, I was just numb. She tried to act normal, bitchy as ever, snapping at me, making little jabs about my work or my hobbies. But I couldn't take my eyes off her. I knew she'd been lying from the start. I knew she was screwing around behind my back. And I knew I had to decide what to do next. I felt this mix of heartbreak and rage boiling inside me. The woman I married, the woman I loved, had been sneaking around with Tom, her best friend's husband, of all people. The story only got darker from there, but I wasn't ready to tell her I knew yet. I wanted to see what she'd say when I finally confronted her face to face. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, my mind racing over everything. Her lies, her sneaky behavior, that damn hotel key I found. It felt like a punch to the gut every time I thought about Tom, her supposed friend, and her constant denials. She kept telling me she was just busy with work, that nothing was happening, but I knew better. I could see the way she was avoiding eye contact, the nervous energy she always had when I brought up her trips. I felt like I was losing my mind, wondering if I had missed the signs, if I'd been blind this whole time. In the morning, I decided I couldn't let it slide anymore. I needed answers. I got up early, brewed some coffee, and waited for her to wake up. When she finally did, she looked at me with her usual bitchy smirk, acting like everything was fine. I looked right at her and said, "Lisa, I found your hotel key in your purse. I also found a note from Tom. Care to explain what the hell is going on?" Her face instantly froze, her eyes narrowing, her lips curling into that irritating smirk she always had when she was trying to lie her way out of something. She looked me up and down, then scoffed. "Oh, please, Mike. You're jumping to conclusions. It's not what you think. Maybe I just picked up the wrong key by mistake, or maybe it's some kind of misunderstanding." Her voice was a little too sharp, a little too defensive, but I wasn't buying it. I pressed her harder, asking when she'd started seeing Tom behind my back, how long it had been going on. That's when she threw her head back and started snapping at me, calling me paranoid, jealous, and insecure. She said, "You think I'd cheat on you? Really? Just because I had a business dinner with Tom doesn't mean I'm screwing him. You're delusional, Mike. Get over yourself." I felt something snap inside me. All the anger I'd been holding back exploded. I threw the hotel key on the table and said, "Don't lie to me anymore. I know what I saw. I know you've been lying and sneaking around. How long has this been going on? Tell me the truth, Lisa." She looked at me with that smirk again, clearly trying to brush it off, but I could see the flicker of fear in her eyes. She hesitated for a moment, then turned her back to me, muttering, "Fine. Yes, I've been seeing Tom. But it's not what you think, it's just sex. It doesn't mean anything." That's when I felt my blood run cold. She said it so casually, like it was nothing. Like she was just talking about grabbing a coffee or something equally trivial. My mind was spinning. How could she say that? How could she dismiss it so easily? I was furious, but also hurt, completely shattered inside. I didn't even know how to respond. I wanted to scream, to demand she tell me everything, but I just stood there, stunned, trying to process her words. It was like my world was collapsing around me, and I knew this wasn't something I could just brush off. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, had been having sex with her best friend's husband, and she didn't even seem to care that I knew. I spent the rest of that day in a daze. My head was pounding, and I kept replaying everything she said, every lie, every sneer, every denial. I started questioning everything: our marriage, her feelings for me, even my own judgment. I wondered how I'd missed the signs, how I'd been blinded by love, or maybe just too trusting. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I couldn't stay silent anymore. I needed to confront her again, but this time I had to decide what I was going to do about it. Would I forgive her? Would I call it quits? I felt like I was standing at some crossroads, and no matter what I chose, my life was never going to be the same again. The next few days were a blur of anger, confusion, and a strange sense of numbness. I couldn't focus on work, couldn't sleep, and every time I looked at Lisa, I saw that smirk, that "I don't care" attitude she was trying to project. It made me sick. Part of me wanted to lose my temper, scream at her, throw her out, but I knew that wouldn't solve anything. I needed a plan, something to get to the bottom of this mess, something that would finally make her own actions clear. I started paying close attention to her schedule, her phone, her car. I even installed a little tracking app on her phone, not to be stalkerish, but because I needed to know what she was up to when I wasn't around. It was a terrible feeling, feeling like a damn spy, but I was desperate. That's when I found out she was meeting Tom again, not just for sex, but apparently planning some kind of getaway. I could see the hotel reservations on her email, different hotel, different city. She was definitely seeing him, no doubt about it. And she was lying even more confidently than before, acting like everything was normal when she was sneaking around behind my back. One afternoon, I snapped. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I called her at work, cut her off mid-sentence during a meeting. I told her I knew everything, that I had proof. The silence on the other end was deafening. She didn't deny it, just scoffed and shot back with more lies. "You're crazy, Mike. You're just jealous because I'm doing my job and you're too insecure to handle it." That's when I lost it. I yelled at her, told her I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore, and that I was done being her fool. She finally cracked that day, her bitchy facade cracking just enough to let some truth slip out. She called me paranoid, said I was overreacting, and accused me of being controlling. She even threw in that classic line, "You're just mad because I'm having sex with Tom and you're too scared to face the truth." That was the moment I realized she was trying to make me doubt myself, to make me feel guilty for catching her. But I wasn't having it. I told her I wanted her to pack her things, that I wasn't going to sit around and be played for a fool anymore. That's when she started crying fake tears, the kind she knew would get her out of trouble. She pleaded, told me she loved me, that it was just a mistake. Honestly, I felt like I was watching a bad movie, the kind where you want to turn it off but can't. I was furious, devastated, and exhausted all at once. I knew then I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. Part of me wanted to confront her face to face, tell her I knew everything, and see if she'd finally admit to what she was doing. The other part just wanted to run, to get as far away from her as possible. But deep down, I knew I had to face her and get some clarity. I had to decide whether I was going to stay and fight or just cut ties and walk away. Either way, my mind was made up. I couldn't keep living in this betrayal, not anymore. The confrontation finally happened a few days later. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I told her I needed to see her, face to face, so she came over that evening, her usual bitchy attitude mixed with that fake remorse she always shows when she's trying to manipulate a situation. I was already boiling inside, my fists clenched, my heart pounding. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Lisa, I know about Tom. I know you've been sleeping with him. Don't lie anymore. I have proof and I want the truth now." She scoffed again, that same dismissive smirk, and crossed her arms. "Oh, come on, Mike. You're being ridiculous. I told you I was just working late, remember? You're overreacting as usual." Her voice was irritatingly calm, her tone like she was talking to a child. I felt my blood start to boil. I pulled out the hotel key and the note I'd kept hidden in my pocket and slammed it on the table. "Tell me this isn't what it looks like. Tell me you're not lying to my face right now." She looked at the key, then at me, her eyes narrowing. "Fine," she said, sighing heavily. "Yes, I've been seeing Tom, but it's just sex. It doesn't mean anything. We're not in love or anything serious." Her words hit me like a punch in the gut. That casual way she dismissed it, like it was just a fling, made me feel so worthless. I asked her, "How long has this been going on?" Her response was infuriating. "A few months, but it's not serious. I swear, Mike, I love you. It's just, I don't know. We got caught up in something I didn't mean to let happen." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was talking about love like it was nothing, like cheating on me, lying, sneaking around, having sex with her best friend's husband was just some temporary mistake. I felt my stomach turn, my chest tighten. My mind was racing. How could she be so selfish, so indifferent to what this was doing to me? I asked her why she did it, why cheated, and she snapped back with a bitter laugh. "Honestly, because you're boring, you don't pay attention to me anymore. You're too wrapped up in your stupid job. Tom actually listens to me. He makes me feel alive. You wouldn't understand." That was when I snapped. I started yelling, telling her she was a selfish, manipulative bitch. I told her I'd had enough of her lies, her bullshit. I said I was done, done pretending this was just a mistake, done pretending I didn't see the person she really was. I told her to get out of my house and not come back. She looked at me with that smirk like she thought she was winning, then finally left, slamming the door behind her. That night I sat alone in the dark, staring at the wall, trying to process everything. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak, like my whole world had crumbled. I kept wondering how she could do this, how she could lie to my face, cheat on me with her best friend's husband, and then have the nerve to lie some more. I kept replaying the scene over and over, wishing I could go back and do things differently. Honestly, part of me wanted to chase her, scream at her, tell her she was a horrible person. But I knew deep down it was over. I had to start thinking about what was next, how to pick up the pieces of my life after being so brutally betrayed. After she left that night, I didn't sleep. I just sat there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I'd been hit by a train. The house was eerily quiet without her bitchy comments or her constant phone notifications. For the first time in years, I was truly alone with my thoughts. I kept thinking about everything, how she lied, how she cheated, how she dismissed our marriage like it was nothing. I felt a terrible mix of anger, sadness, and disappointment. It was like my world had shattered into 1,000 pieces, and I didn't know how to put it back together. The next morning, I knew I had a choice to make. I could try to salvage whatever was left, or I could cut ties completely. I spent most of the day trying to think clearly, but every time I closed my eyes, her face appeared, smirking, lying, cheating. I realized I couldn't keep living in denial or pretend that this was just a mistake she'd somehow fix. I needed to get some perspective, so I reached out to my best friend, Dave. He's been through a lot, and I knew I could trust him to tell me the truth. I told him everything about the hotel key, the note, her lies, her affair. He listened patiently, then said, "Man, she's been screwing you over for a while. You gotta ask yourself, do you want to stay with someone who doesn't respect you, or do you cut your losses and move on? It's gonna be painful either way, but you deserve better than a wife who cheats and lies." That hit hard. I never thought it would come to this, but deep down, I knew Dave was right. I'd been so blinded by love and hope that I didn't see how toxic things had become. Over the next few days, I started planning my next move. I put a few things in storage, talked to a lawyer about my rights, and slowly began detaching from her. Every time I saw her face in my mind, I felt the anger growing stronger, but I also knew I had to do what was best for me. I realized I wasn't going to fix this marriage. It was broken beyond repair. The trust was gone, replaced by betrayal and disgust. I decided I was going to divorce her. I couldn't stay married to someone who had so little regard for me, for what we had. It hurt to admit it, but I had to accept that my wife had chosen Tom and her own selfish desires over us. The hardest part was facing the aftermath. All my friends and family knew something was wrong, and I had to tell them I was splitting up with Lisa. Some of them were sympathetic, others thought I was crazy for even trying to save things. But I didn't care about their opinions anymore. I was finally focusing on healing myself. I started hitting the gym, seeing a counselor, trying to rebuild my confidence. It's been rough, way more than I expected, but every day gets a little easier. The pain still lingers, but I know I'll get through it. What I've learned from all this is simple. Never ignore the signs, don't let yourself be played for a fool, and trust your instincts. If someone cheats and lies, they're not worth wasting your time on. I hope anyone out there going through something similar finds the strength to walk away before it's too late. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much you love someone, your own dignity and happiness matter more. And I've realized that sometimes the only way to be truly free is to let go of what's hurting you. Looking back, I can honestly say that the whole experience changed me in ways I never expected. I used to believe in fairy tales about love and happily ever after, but now I see things more clearly. People are complicated, and sometimes the ones you trust the most can hurt you the deepest. Still, I learned that no betrayal is worth sacrificing your self-respect. If someone cheats, lies, and manipulates, they're not worth your pain. The only thing you truly own in this life is your dignity, and I had to fight hard to reclaim mine. I've become more cautious about who I trust, more aware of the red flags I once ignored. I also learned that forgiveness is about excusing what someone did. It's about freeing yourself from the anger and pain that hold you hostage. I don't harbor hatred for Lisa anymore. That's a burden I refuse to carry. Instead, I see her for what she is, someone who made her choices, and ultimately those choices destroyed what we had. I wish her well, but I know I can't have her in my life anymore. Now I focus on rebuilding my life piece by piece. I've started dating again cautiously, and I've found that I'm stronger than I thought. Each day, I'm learning to value myself more and to trust my instincts better. I know there will be more hardships ahead, but I also know I can handle them. This betrayal taught me a hard lesson about love, trust, and self-respect, lessons I won't forget. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: don't ignore the red flags. If someone cheats or hurts you repeatedly, don't make excuses. You deserve someone who respects and values you, not someone who takes you for granted. Trust your gut. Your intuition is often right. And above all, never lose sight of your worth. Life goes on, and eventually you find happiness again, sometimes in unexpected places. I'm living proof of that. I've been broken, yes, but I've also been mended. And even though I'll carry this pain with me forever, it's made me stronger. So to anyone out there going through something similar, keep fighting. Heal at your own pace, because in the end, your happiness and dignity are what truly matter.